Sunday night, mercifully, ended rather quickly. So it feels kind of early. We're caffeinated.
The game went over. There's always like this thing where like our model likes a team, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
the Bears.
Like, that was the Bears, and like I do think there was probably like I didn't have anything to do with 7.5. I didn't have anything to do with 8. At 9.5, I did get involved.
It's
I will
10.
say
They're plus 330,
and I got lucky because we had teased LA like a bunch, and then overhit, which was another play that Greenline liked. So it wasn't so bad. But man, yeah, this was a certain day. I think I counted, was it 8 underdogs that won outright today?
4 favorites covered up until I think the Rams did.
Yeah.
We'll get into a lot of different things. This is the PFF Forecast. We are live. We'll be going live every single Sunday right after Sunday Night Football. And we're not just going to cover what happened today in a quick way. We're going to get to week 2, because if you're betting on football games and you're waiting till Sunday, generally you're going to get screwed in terms of the value that you're getting. So we're going to guess the lines.
Case in point, by the way, when you looked at I guess our picks this week, which came out, what was that, Tuesday or Wednesday, are 2-1-1. The lock of the week was 1-0, so we were 3-1-1 on those picks. We pushed the Jets, interestingly, right? Because the Jets pushed +5. They could have gotten +3.5 or better if they would have made that 2-point conversion. Felt like kind of a gift. We hit all of our teasers in the May article that we wrote, but we did not hit Buffalo -6, Detroit +7.5. Detroit did cover 8.5 or better, and then Kansas City -5.5. So, but we did get good line value on most of those.
I hope everyone out there got good line value. This is going to be a zero-yawn show, unlike Sunday Night Football. And we're going to start with, we're going to do biggest takeaway. We're going to do, we'll talk about the Sunday night game a little bit. Biggest takeaway, the overreaction that people will have that they shouldn't. And then we're going to guess the lines for week 2. So let's start with Sunday night. And I'll kick it off because you know what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
This game, as much as everyone is going to talk about the Rams as a result of this game, this was a joke from the Bears. Like, people are paying, across the globe, millions and millions, billions of dollars for NFL football, and you gave us that travesty. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Dalton is not good. He is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin Fields gives you hope. Like, at the end of the game, Chris was like, you know what? Andy Dalton didn't play that bad. Dude, you're down fucking 20. They had a 4th and 15, and they should have gone for it. And I turned around and looked at you, and I said, yeah, they should have gone for it. Andy Dalton has no fucking chance of picking up 4th and 15. He couldn't even get it to the line to gain.
I actually agree with Chris that Dalton played fine for Andy Dalton. Like, he wasn't – it was actually, like, very similar. You remember that when the – Cowboys and the Ravens played like a Tuesday night game last year, and it was sort of the same thing where like Dalton has no business being out here. He sucks out loud, but it's not like he like threw a bunch of interceptions. He played fine in this game. The problem is Dalton playing fine is not good enough for you to win. And if you are actually, and again, like I actually think like the Rams are beatable. Like the problem is you didn't give yourself a chance, and like. Did you watch this game tonight? And look, I'm not gonna like shit on Dalton on Stafford. I thought Stafford made some throws that were amazing.
Played well.
But the idea that this Rams team is not beatable defensively, right? Like they didn't harass Dalton the way that we thought they were going to in the pass rush. They weren't great against the run, and their coverage wasn't like this stout group. And the Bears put forth, in my opinion, a pathetic attempt to beat this team.
Pathetic is the right word. Pathetic, if you described Andy Dalton tonight, it was pathetic.
Yeah.
4.5 average depth of target, not a single big-time throw. That's it. You're not going to beat the Los Angeles Rams, whether you think they're overrated or not, or underrated, whatever it might be. You're not going to beat them with that type of a quarterbacking performance.
Yeah.
And for everyone that says, oh, you shouldn't have put Justin Fields out there because Aaron Donald's going to wreck him. Aaron Donald didn't have an incredible game. He only had, I think, 3 pressures in that game. Finally got a sack there at the end. But that to me was the takeaway from this game. Is
like the word that I used, I think, when I watched a play, it was like there was a red zone play, and I was like, "Oh, that's just flaccid as hell." Like that's how they were just like they just were not. It was just if I'm a Bears fan, I come out of April extremely excited, and I understand that there's some reservation to being a Bears fan where it's like. Like what are we gonna do?
Yep.
But this is like the one, and look, actually, I mean, if you're a Bears fan, it's even worse in some ways because, or maybe there's a silver lining in this, but like every other team in your division was ass today. I mean, Detroit, at least, I'll say this about Detroit:
they fight,
and we said that they were gonna play hard.
They fought,
and
they fought over.
And Jared
as well.
Goff, I'll say this about Jared Goff in that game: he sucked, but at least he gave a shit. Whereas like. You look at like Minnesota just lost to fucking Cincinnati, and the Packers were, I mean, that performance was pathetic, and we could talk. I mean, Sean Payton made the Hall of Fame twice today, did he not? I mean, good Lord,
he did.
But the Bears, at least now, I guess what you could say if you're a Bears fan is the moment that you win a week and you didn't give yourself a chance. They were the biggest. Well, after Detroit closes a bigger Detroit and them closes about the same underdog to their opponent. You were the biggest underdog in week 1, and you came out of week 1 luckily tied for first place in your division. Start Justin Fields already. Like what's
Justin
the point?
Fields better be in there next week.
I don't get it.
He better fucking be in there next week. And I apologize for the strong language. I'm just excited for football. Yeah. Anyways, that was my big kind of takeaway from this game. So maybe that was yours as well. Do you have a secondary one coming out of Sunday Night Football?
Coming out of Sunday Night Football,
because you've had some strong. Like I really want you to talk about Stafford a little bit because you've had some strong. We've had some really good conversations about Stafford. I think it's one of the most interesting conversations out there, which is like. Does Matt Stafford elevate the Rams offense to the point where, and actually I'll bring it back to Justin Fields for a second while you think about what you're going to say. Justin Fields on the field allows you to do things that are creative and actually run those plays and make it exciting, make the defense guess, right, with what he can do athletically. And that's the idea with the Rams. What Stafford can do with his arm allows them to have more creativity and their offense to be better. Do you think
that's true? That's 100% true. I still believe after watching tonight's game though that because Stafford has done this with every single new situation, right? Like when Calvin Johnson retired, right? 2016 was the first year without Calvin Johnson, and they had 8 come from behind wins and that was the last time they made the playoffs, I think. And it was like. It's like, oh, this is a rebirth of Matthew Stafford now that he insert narrative here, right? And when Jim Bob Cooter took over for Lombardi, it was the same thing. When here's Stafford's first season in Detroit, it was like 40-something touchdowns and a playoff berth for the Lions in 2011. And then when Darrell Bevell took over in 2019, he was one of the best passers in football for half a season. It almost always peters out, right? Like, and so did we expect? Like, I don't necessarily want to say we expected a great game tonight, but he played a great game tonight. And to me, the question is how long can they sustain it? Because I watched that Rams team tonight, and I see that's a good quarterback, that's good offense. There's a ton of weapons, right? You had Deshaun Jackson, Van Jefferson also played well, and then you obviously have their 2 stud receivers in Woods and Kupp. Offensive line's okay. Running backs, they didn't really have a running game. That was actually a good thing about the Rams as far as like how productive they were without a ground game until the end. And then defensively, I still don't think that defense is going to be able to hold up against a real NFL offense.
Who should be the favorite in the NFC West after today?
Seattle, I think still.
Okay, second?
LA.
And then third, the Niners.
I think that the issue with the Niners is what we talked about, which is they lost a defensive coordinator. Jason Verrett looks injured this week.
He tore his ACL.
I mean, poor guy. I mean, it's always something. And And like, I just think that they're a little too fragile. The other thing, they drafted Brandon Ayuk in round 1, and they prefer Trent Sherfield. Like, what are
Please don't reopen the wound of Brandon Ayuk.
Like,
I had Brandon Ayuk and people care about my fantasy teams. I don't know if you know this. Raheem Mostert and Brandon Ayuk on the same team.
Trey Sermon inactive for some reason.
Please feel bad for me.
Trey Sermon inactive for some reason. I'm ripping up not only that, but my Matt Ryan MVP ticket after 1 week. So
that is brutal. Okay, let's do biggest takeaway. I'll let you start. Your biggest takeaway from what we've seen so far of week 1.
My biggest takeaway is that we had 8 underdogs win outright, I believe. I have to go back and check. I mean, at one point, LA Chargers were favored, but they did close as dogs. Last year, in week 1, the Browns, who finished the season 11-5, lost on opening day. The Colts, who finished 11-5, lost on opening day. The Dolphins, who finished 10-6, lost on opening day. The Buccaneers were 11-5, lost on opening day. And the Titans, who finished 11-5, had that ugly ass Monday night game where they didn't cover and they won against Denver. The week 1 is important. It's good to get off to a good start. There's a lot of narrative, like there's a lot of like testing of our theories that happens. I don't know if the die is cast on a lot of these teams. And there's going to be, for me, there's going to be a rush to judge teams I was low on, like the Vikings, like the Washington football team, like the Colts, like the Titans, right? Like I called them the 2020 Minnesota Vikings, right? And they were every bit. Todd Downing, I think our Austin Gale put this out there. They ran play action less than any team in the NFL this week after being the play action kings last year. The Todd Downing thing is real. But at the same time, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt, which is wrong if I'm going to look at how the Jets played and say, look, they mostly suck today, but Zach Wilson showed a lot of gumption in getting back and covering one of the spreads, not the closing line, but ultimately he made that game interesting. Good on him, right? Or the Giants and say, oh, well, that was, Teddy Bridgewater's the highest graded quarterback in the NFL. He made some pretty game plays in that game. Let's not rush to judgment. Or Green Bay, who got blown out today. Let's not rush to judgment on them. Like, I think you have to be fair about who you rush to judgment on. And I would say that probably the smartest thing to do is to not rush to judgment on any team, except for Jacksonville, who lost to the Houston Texans.
So is that your biggest takeaway?
Yeah. I mean,
the Jaguars suck?
Well, yeah.
I don't think that's your biggest takeaway.
No, I mean, the biggest I think the biggest the thing that's most likely to be right from week 1 is it's going to be really hard, if not impossible, for a team in the AFC to consistently compete with Kansas City. Like, I know Cleveland had turnovers and I know that they made mistakes, but for the most part, Cleveland manhandled Kansas City in the trenches for most of that game. Baker Mayfield played a fantastic football game. I think after this game, if he plays that way the whole season, they're going to just be difficult to beat. They did it without OBJ. They did it without Jedrick Wills for most of the game. Now, Kansas City was down a few people, and Kevin Stefanski was basically flawless in game. And it still wasn't enough to beat Kansas City. And so if you look across the landscape of the AFC, we're going to see a wounded Ravens team tonight, Monday night. Saw the Bills fall pathetically, I think, to Pittsburgh. That was an awful performance by them, especially by Josh Allen. I think the most reliable thing is that the Chiefs are just,
Who could have foreseen this? I have I could not have foreseen.
So what's your takeaway from week 1?
Well, yeah. I'll try and be a little succinct here. So I think, and I said this before, that the Browns are the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC. And I think that was 100% validated in this game and in this week. Because as you mentioned, the Bills, it didn't look great, right, for Buffalo. Josh Allen really was a departure from what we saw last season, right? That was not what we saw from Josh Allen last season.
He couldn't buy a pass in this game.
No, it was a lot of inaccurate throws. The Browns here's the tricky thing with the Browns. They need Odell Beckham Jr. to be able to be out there winning in one-on-one coverage. When they had to throw the ball at the end of the game, you have checks notes. Anthony Schwartz. Okay, they needed to win the game, right? And they had to go to a guy who literally couldn't catch a cold out there in one-on-one coverage down the football field. And you're just not going to be able to win games like that. Like, Patrick Mahomes is amazing. He's also throwing to Tyreek freaking Hill and Travis Kelce. Like, those two guys are absolutely incredible. So the Browns are the biggest threat to the Chiefs. That is my biggest takeaway. I think that was part of what you said there. I have a secondary takeaway, though, and that is that Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts are awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to see Jalen Hurts play well in that game. He was one of the most accurate, we'll see after review, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league this week per PFF's charting. Kyler Murray leading per review the entire league in big-time throws with 6. That is fantastic.
I think the Murray one is going to be – I agree with you. I think the Murray one is going to be a little bit more sustainable because when you look at Murray, you know, you're talking about an ADOT of 8.8, right? Like the shining thing about Hurts was his ADOT was 3.6.
Yeah.
They're very much – and good. Look, I think the Eagles suck. I thought the Eagles would suck. They manhandled the Falcons team that we thought would be better. It's very interesting that Robert Salah and Arthur Smith left their teams, and it's clear that they were missed by their old teams, right? Titans and Niners. But they did not make a positive influence on their new team quite yet. But 3.6 ADOT, I think if you're the Eagles, the hard part is that you have to play from ahead in those games, right? And against the Falcons you did because the Falcons stepped on their own dick in the red zone again and again and again like they always do early when they were controlling the game. And then when the Eagles got control of that game, I think Hurts is a fantastically effective quarterback when the team is in control of the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I'll start with this one, which is the overreaction that people are going to have tomorrow that they should not have, that is unwarranted. And there were a couple of places that I could go. I wanted to skew a little positive because I do think one of the takeaways is going to be that the Rams are a Super Bowl juggernaut, and I thought that was more about the Bears playing a quarterback that should be a backup firmly in the NFL. And I'm going to say that people are going to overreact to the Green Bay Packers getting trounced.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Green Bay Packers just suck in Florida. They got blown out by Tampa Bay last year in a very ugly game. Aaron Rodgers looked lost. Devontae Adams could not get uncovered.
They also are a soft football team. Like, who beat them last year?
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay is a tough-ass football team. Indianapolis is a tough-ass football team.
Yep.
And when there was weather conditions against the Vikings and Aaron Rodgers' yards per throw went down 1.5 yards or whatever it was in that game, what did the Vikings? The Vikings ran all over them, right? They are. I mean, the Saints. I mean, Jameis put up 5 touchdowns, but the actual thing about this game was that the Saints ran for 171 on them.
Right.
And only 15 yards was the longest run, right? So they were just gashing them. I called their run defense gooey on the show this morning, and they were very much gooey today.
Yeah, but I they didn't have David Bakhtiari. Their pass blocking grade was pretty decent pre-review. Yeah. That really wasn't the major issue. Marshawn Lattimore was amazing. He's going to end up with one of the highest coverage grades out there. Was like white on rice out there. But this is something that I'm not going to overreact to. They were 1 for 10 on third downs. That is something that's unstable.
Yeah.
I think that they will get it back on track.
They've had offensive performances like this before.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not overreacting to the Green Bay Packers.
What
are you not overreacting
I think,
to?
just to double down on your point, for a team to physically manhandle another team like that who has a quarterback like that, you need a lot of things to go right, and the Saints had literally everything go right, much like Tampa did last year in Tampa. I very much agree with your point. I think I want to skew positive too here, and again I'm gonna continue this. I think that the Jets will still be a competitive team.
Our Jets.
I think when you look at Zach, and now they needed this win if you were going to go over the season win total.
Yep.
But our guy Zach Wilson, 17th this week in PFF grade, 68.5. He had 3 big time throws, 3 turnover worthy plays. He had 5. They dropped 5 of his passes. There were plays where you could clearly see like he would, and they didn't give him a lot of help up front, right? He would escape the pocket and he would throw a laser downfield. And early in the game those weren't hitting. At the end of the game they were hitting, and they covered 5.5 as a result, or pushed 5. The Jets defense actually wasn't that bad. They gave up a couple deep shots. And when you look at the way that the AFC East is playing, like Buffalo, clearly not, we're talking about not overreacting, but Buffalo, we certainly have to take a little bit of a regressive approach to them. And the Dolphins-Patriots game ended 17-16. This isn't exactly a division like the AFC West where you have Herberts and Carrs and Mahomes and Bridgewater, was the highest graded quarterback in our system this week. Yeah. So I think, to me, I think the Jets will still be competitive. I think that they're still going to be a team that has a shot to play compelling games this year. It's a take I don't have about the Jaguars.
That was comedic, by the way. That was really, really funny. Something that was interesting, I thought, about I don't know why I thought of this. Oh, because you just mentioned the Buffalo Bills. The Steelers last year ran play action like 10% of their plays, by far the lowest in the NFL.
Astronomically low.
They ran play action today on 29% of plays, which is just above average, but is a huge step in the right direction for them. And as you mentioned, interestingly, the Tennessee Titans ran play action on 11% of their plays. Now, of course, because Derrick Henry couldn't, run anywhere, so that must have been the reason that they couldn't run.
That was a remarkable, and look, there was sharp money that came in on Arizona to push that number to 2.5. Congrats to those people. I thought Tennessee was the better.
Well, it was interesting. We talked about this on the show. My gut, because we had talked about Tennessee not being great, kind of fading Tennessee all offseason.
Yeah.
And so when they came into that Arizona game, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Going to fade Tennessee. And our model liked Tennessee over Arizona. I was like, well, I should probably flip on my gut reaction, or my gut there. And, the Cliff Kingsbury thing.
Well,
it's tough, man. That offense was heinous. I mean, it was
Chandler Jones
disgusting.
made it really tough. Their offense, look, the fact that they were fragile, it was what we've talked about. I looked at Arizona being equally fragile, though. I looked at them, West Coast, East Coast, coming play at 1 o'clock. You look at their secondary, aside from Baker and Byron Murphy, basically tattered, right? Much like Tennessee, but Tennessee at least had Janoris Jenkins and Kevin Byard and so on and so forth. So it was 2 teams that I thought were sort of equally yoked, I guess, as far as defensively they were both struggling in the secondary. And this sort of maybe, Chandler Jones ruined that offense for the Tennessee Titans. And you think to yourself, okay, well, what does that mean? Can a pass rush supersede coverage? I think if an offense isn't creative at all, which is what Tennessee was, yes, right? Chandler Jones made it almost impossible for Tennessee to do anything. And Tennessee didn't do anything to challenge what is still a very weak Arizona secondary.
Yeah, if you're going to have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones on the field, and you're going to target them, I believe they targeted them for the first time in the second quarter. I might be getting that slightly wrong, but it was a long time before either of them saw a ball come in their direction. You're just doing it wrong, period.
Yeah. So, but in that division right now, Houston's in first place at 1-0. All the other teams are 0-1. I think that we're I think that today shows why Indianapolis is such a fade. I mean, Seattle's defense was getting a ton of pressure on Carson Wentz. We know that Seattle's defense isn't the real deal. So Indianapolis is still extremely fragile. Tennessee probably still is the favorite in that division, yeah?
I was trying to kind of think that through. I guess.
Yeah, I mean.
I guess. I'd be very interested to see what those odds look like. All those teams are absolutely atrocious. Carson Wentz, by the way, it was not terrible.
He didn't have any turnover-worthy plays, but he didn't have any big-time throws, right? Or he had just the one?
Was like it was an Andy Dalton-esque performance.
Well, it was one of those where you look back, like let's say you're a humongous apologist. Like there are tons of people that are like this for Kirk Cousins. And you look in the offense is ass cheeks, and you come back and you're like, well, it wasn't his fault. What did he do wrong? And it's like, well, it's kind of the quarterback's fault when a lot of shit goes wrong. Like if you take on too much pressure, sure, you can sort of write that off to the offensive line, but all the great quarterbacks overcome that more often than they don't, right? And I think that was a problem for the Indianapolis offense.
We're gonna do week 2. Guess the lines before we do. Just a reminder: kickoff 30 ends today, Monday. Well, it's not quite Monday yet, but it ends on Monday. That's your last day to get 30% off on any PFF subscription. So that includes Edge, which you can get for $7, as low as $7. It gives you all the content, all of our premium locked content is yours, plus all of our fantasy rankings and projections, and our power rankings tool. And if you get the Elite subscription, you can get obviously all of the betting tools, the betting dashboard, Green Line, the player props tool, which cashed our lock of the week. And my favorite prop actually was Tyrod Taylor going over 1.5 passing touchdowns, which also cashed. DFS optimizer, all the things that you need to be successful throughout the season. Get it for 30% off now. Kickoff 30. It ends. Your last chance. It ends on Monday. Okay, week 2. We're on to week 2, baby.
Feed me.
So the way this works for anyone that is new, we guess what the lines are going to be to the next week's games before the games for that current week kick off, and then we go over them and talk about them and see who was closest, and that usually helps inform the picks that we are going to make. So we'll start with Thursday night, which is now a terrifying matchup between the New York Giants and that horrific offense, and the Washington football team, certainly without Ryan Fitzpatrick. It looks like it'll be Taylor Heineke. I will start. I said before, thinking that it would be with Ryan Fitzpatrick, that the Washington football team would be a 4-point favorite.
I would guess that now, and again, I haven't seen any of the lines. I actually, did not bet. I had so much on week 1 that I did not want to put any on week 2. So, I would say 3.5. I still think Washington is a favorite. I don't think it should be by a full 4.
I don't think this line is out there. Let me see if I can find it.
I do see it on Pinnacle, George.
4.5?
No. Yeah. -4, -111 on Pinnacle. +4 is +101. They have reduced juice there, so essentially a 4.5. Total 42.5.
Okay, so that's close.
No, I think you nailed it. Can we get down narrative street here for the Washington football team? Because it includes Taylor Heineke. The thing that I struggle with when I think about the playoff game against the Bucs was that everybody talked about how well Heineke played, and I think that's reasonable because he played amazing football. People stop short because the Bucs won a Super Bowl of pointing out the fact that the football team's defense, who played no one really good all season, gave up 500 yards and would have given up like 650 yards if Godwin would have not dropped 6 passes. Today against the Los Angeles Chargers, they gave up 424 yards. They got bailed out. They got bailed out by the Herbert fumble through the end zone. There were a couple kind of sneaky weird. There was another turnover in that game that kind of was the Chargers turned the ball over twice. Now, this might not matter against Daniel Jones, but I think long term, maybe are we overrating the Washington football team defense just a little bit?
Well, we know that defense is unstable.
Yeah.
So anyone that thought they were going to be immediately top 5 again, or even top 3, whatever it is, you just are. Math is not on your side. I will say this: they're a good defense. I don't know. That statement means that they're not going to be the reason that you lose a game.
Right. They'll lose a game 20-16,
which is what they did today.
Yeah.
The key is that you've got to have an offense that has some creativity. The fact that the Washington football team did not get Terry McLaurin the ball early and often was a huge.
Just 4 targets for him, just 3 targets for Logan Thomas, probably their 2 best players on offense.
I mean, it was a huge mistake.
4 targets for Diami. It was not Diami Brown's season.
No.
He had the 1 catch for the
they
-2.
They were up 16-13 and started trying to run out the clock, and that was pathetic.
We've been using that word a lot, but football, to our standards, there was a lot of patheticness today.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. You talked about how many underdogs covered this week and won outright. It'll be interesting to see how the lines this week change and if people are just all in on the underdogs. By the way, I want to mention this. The New York Football Giants, Daniel Jones did not play well. The pass protection, though, and people will blame the pass protection,
was fine.
It wasn't as bad as I think people want it to be. This was, in my opinion, a little bit of a Jason Garrett offense where you're like, not a lot of creativity.
Yeah,
not a lot of excitement.
I kind of want to go through some of their motions and shifts and stuff.
It
looked really stale.
It looked uninspiring. Yes.
Yeah. And they actually they're not empty of playmakers, right?
No.
To throw out Saquon for a second.
The number of times Saquon Barkley just ran into the line was unfortunate.
Sterling Shepard had a good game today. You saw Kadarius Toney, you saw Galladay. They're not bad, and unfortunately,
we've talked about this team too much already.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's
Would
move
you
on.
take a 4.5 with the Giants on the road? This is Washington football team's final division game until there are 5 weeks left in the season, after which they have 5 straight divisional games. They need this like they need to breathe.
I am not taking the Giants.
You're not taking the Giants. Okay, move on.
The New England Patriots. So this is the 1 p.m. slate. Again, another loaded 1 p.m. slate. Only 4 p.m. games. Patriots at the Jets. You go first.
Patriots at the Jets. I'm going to say the Patriots are laying 3. Yeah, laying 3 on the road.
I had the Jets as a 4.5 point underdog. It appears that they are 3.5.
So we're about there. I was going to say 3.5, but I said 3. I would take the Jets there. I know Belichick's going to do more to your rookie quarterback than Salah's probably going to do to your rookie quarterback. Jones played really well today. He had a PFF grade above 80.
Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson's
we had Miami on the money line in that game. I feel lucky to have gotten that home. There was turnovers that were weird and shit like that. Anyway, yeah.
Based on where I thought the line would be, I would be taking the Patriots. I'm not taking the Jets. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'm not taking the Jets.
Okay, so we're 0 for 2.
Let me put it this way. I'm a Zach Wilson believer. The Carolina Panthers defense is not near what I think Bill Belichick's defense is from you've got to kind of figure it out perspective.
They dodged a bullet with Mekhi Becton. It does not look like it's a season-ending knee injury.
Yeah,
probably not playing this week.
Or next week.
Yeah, probably not playing next week. So, okay, so we're 0 for 2 on betting.
There's a lot more opportunity out there. Denver goes to Jacksonville. I'll start this one off. I thought, this was, again, before the game started, that Jacksonville would be a 5.5 point underdog. I'm going to say that might be a little on the low end. What say you?
Denver will be laying 6.5 on the road.
Okay. It is 6.
Okay. Teddy covers. That's all Teddy does, too.
Are you so Trevor Lawrence had 3 turnover-worthy plays from a clean pocket today, the most in the NFL, pending review. Are you completely out on the Jags?
No.
There was the report that Urban Meyer's unhinged.
Unhinged already?
That came up before the game.
I mean, I could see it. How long does he make it? Does he go Bobby Petrino?
No.
Is he looking for a?
If you've heard Shad Khan talk about him, he's going to keep him around for a while.
But that wasn't.
Is Teddy covering here?
But that wasn't the Bobby Petrino thing. Bobby Petrino straight up, like 12 weeks into his first year with Atlanta,
just couldn't
got a new college coaching job, and left.
I think if Urban is leaving, it's to like
just peace out.
Yeah,
okay.
Just go back to the Fox booth.
6 is a lot, man. Denver loses Judy for a little bit, it looks like. Although it sounds like he didn't break his ankle, which is crazy.
It's amazing.
But they're deep at wide receiver. Albert O made a play today.
KJ Hamler had one that was a touchdown that he just dropped.
Noah Fant's a moose. I could lay 6 with. It's a road dog though, and so I'll leave that one as a maybe. The first 2 were no's because you were very against both of them, which I'm fine with. This is a maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe. Buffalo goes to Miami. This is now an intriguing game. I have Miami as a 2.5-point underdog at home.
I think that's probably right.
Okay. It is 3.
So Buffalo's still favored.
A full 3.
All right. I might take Miami with that one, actually. I mean,
what's
Buffalo going to do with
some places 3.5?
Okay, I would take Miami plus 3.5. What is Buffalo going to do defensively to Tua? Actually, I did this work for a friend of ours today. Here's what Buffalo did. Here's what Buffalo did in the pass rush today. Okay, they had Jerry Hughes had 3 pressures, Evan Epinez had 1, Gregory Rousseau had 2, Ed Oliver had 1, and that's against a dog shit Pittsburgh offensive line. Big Ben was pressured 9 of 38 dropbacks. Okay, the Dolphins don't have a great offensive line, but Tua wasn't great today, but he was aggressive, and he was like pretty accurate with the ball, I thought. And Devontae Parker is going to be joined and played a great game today. Is going to be joined in week 2 by Will Fuller, along with Jalen Waddle, who had a touchdown today. Give me Miami. Do we think Josh Allen is like if today's Josh Allen?
Here's the thing.
Averaged with last year's Josh Allen.
Here's the problem. I don't want to overreact to 1 week, and Tua got a victory, but played worse than Mac Jones did. He certainly will grade lower than he did.
Yep.
He made some. He is the typical Tua thing where he made some nice throws, but he also made some And I don't think. Oh, he did have one big time throw, one turnover-worthy play. And Buffalo can't start 0-2.
Yeah, but let's handicap this game. Just even thinking about what. Before,
I think that's why it's a 3.
Yeah, but before we knew anything about this week, we had Miami as 0.2 of a point worse than the average team on a neutral field. We have Buffalo at one of our highest marks, 4.2 points better than the average team on a neutral field. So you're talking about 4.4 points of difference. You have home field advantage of, let's say, 1.5. You're crossing 3 there. There's a lot of probability stacked on 3. To me, even throwing the data from this week out of the window, you still have to, I think, take Miami at plus 3.5. Wouldn't you?
3.5. I get on board with 3.5.
Okay.
If 3 gets me to the window, then I'll do that. So I do see some 3.5s out there. By the way, so that's not out of the question.
It's 3.5 on Pinnacle. You're paying up for Miami there, but I still would probably consider it.
By the way, we use Pinnacle because they're generally the sharpest.
Yeah, Bet Chris is another good one, but yeah, Pinnacle is.
Okay, let's move on. my San Francisco 49ers, who did not cover today, the closing line at least, are traveling to Philly, where you would have expected another route.
Yep.
Maybe not as much. What do you think this?
So they're going to Philly. I think they're laying 6.5.
Right now, I expected them to be a little more convincing against Detroit. I said 8. I also did not expect Philly to blow out Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I said 8.5. I'm going to guess this is more like 7. What do you see on Pinnacle?
I see 3. Niners are laying a field goal at Philly.
So we're just completely off here?
Yeah, it's a juiced 3. You got to lay. I mean, it's probably minus 125 if you want to back.
Wait,
the
are
Niners.
You serious?
Yes.
I mean, I'm glad that I'm this far off because
let's take the Niners.
I will take the fucking Niners here. This
All right,
is.
So we have Miami plus 3.
So
SF minus 3.
Here was one of the interesting things. Let's take a look at Jimmy Garoppolo today, because I actually thought Jimmy Garoppolo played fine today.
I admittingly did not watch much of that game. Once the game got over the total, I was good to go. So
I mean, I think their biggest issue, honestly, is going to be, their defense.
Garoppolo had 314 yards on 25 attempts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty damn good efficiency. If you ask me, I have to throw out no plays, but
I didn't think it was that bad. Their offense.
They put up 41 points. There's nothing really to complain about.
This is where there has to be some overreaction to Philly's performance.
I mean,
right?
as much as we like the Falcons, we like them because of their offense. Their defense is an atrocity.
Is ass.
I think the issue, and look, Joe Banner wrote about it. He said that Philadelphia was going to win this division. They're currently in first place all by themselves. So who's laughing? Who's laughing now?
Take it.
But the Eagles physically dominated the Atlanta Falcons, and I think they're going to have a much harder time doing so against the 49ers.
Yeah. You think?
So,
okay.
So minus 3 is aggressive, or plus 3 is aggressive. If you take plus 3 with the Philadelphia Eagles, I think you're out to lunch. I don't know.
Man, I don't know. I also believe San Francisco. They're in Detroit right now. I actually don't know this for sure. Do you know if they're staying out that way?
Oh, sure.
They usually do that.
They usually do. The pandemic was interesting last year.
They still did it last year, though.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would guess they're staying out there. This to me is an opportunity.
Yep.
We're gonna place some bets on that immediately. Okay. Moving right along, the Los Angeles Football Rams are traveling to Indianapolis to play the Colts. I said, I'm an idiot. I said the Colts would be a 3-point underdog in this game before watching these teams play.
Okay, so Rams, Colts.
What do you think?
I mean, it's not actually that dumb. I think the Rams will probably be laying 2.5.
Okay, I see 4.
Okay.
I don't see it on Pinnacle, but I saw 4 before Sunday Night Football.
And is that just because Wentz? By the way, Seattle plus 3 was just a fucking disaster.
Dude. That was incredible, man. I mean, it was funny. I was talking to our friend, at Whale_Capper, Drew Dinzik, the Whale Capper podcast. Great podcast.
Well, this just isn't up because they played Sunday Night Football.
Yeah. Okay. And he and Andy liked Seattle -3 in the Circa Millions contest. And I was telling him, I was like, if I had just seen that number, I would like it too. But because I've already seen Seattle +3, I don't like it as much.
Yeah.
And obviously it ended. I mean, they trounced them. This is probably. I don't know, man.
The only thing you can do here,
The only thing you can do here, in my opinion, is bet Los Angeles. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Carson Wentz?
West Coast to East Coast, a little bit smaller rest.
You're calling Indy East Coast? That's very rich of you.
Well, but I mean the time zone is the same.
Still rich of you.
Detroit technically is East Coast,
yeah,
right?
True.
So, 4 is just too much. Like, I think it's an overreaction to both. If you're laying 4 with LA, you're buying literally at the top and selling Indy at the bottom.
That's a really fair point. I agree with that. This is
not to bash on the Rams. I'm just saying like everything has a price, and I just think you're paying a little too much for them.
Yeah, I feel that. All right, Las Vegas.
But I'm not gonna take Indy. There's probably too many things on this board that have some value that I will not.
Speaking of, the Las Vegas Raiders go to Pittsburgh. I said that the Pittsburgh Steelers would be a 3.5-point favorite. This is going to be a little short.
Pittsburgh.
I don't see this up anywhere, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I do.
Pittsburgh's at home. So the Ravens are 4-point favorites in Las Vegas tonight.
Yeah, I'm way off on this.
So you're probably talking about 8 points better if you assume 2-point neutral. Let's assume a 1.5-point home field, so 7 points better. So Pittsburgh is probably 2.5 points worse, so 5 add. So Pittsburgh's probably laying 6.
6.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm way off on this. I obviously expect.
I don't think you could bet Pittsburgh on. Like Pittsburgh's not good enough offensively for this shit.
I like the Raiders side of this.
Yeah, I mean, especially given the uncertainty associated with tonight's game.
I know this is going to shock people, but I did not think that Pittsburgh won the game on the back, the newly slimmed and trimmed back of Ben Roethlisberger, who did not grade well. He and Aaron Rodgers actually share the illustrious mark of pending review, the lowest PFF passing grade from a clean pocket. So that's something that I want to fade. This is exactly what my take was last year, actually, on the Steelers, which was their record doesn't match their passing efficiency. And that is, again, the case here. So 6.5, I think the Raiders are a buy. Now, are you nervous to buy them before you've seen them yet?
Yeah. Like, the thing about the Raiders is they could come out of the gate playing 2 offenses that are extremely wounded, right? Like the Ravens, as much as we don't think running backs matter that much, having your 4th guy there is probably going to be a thing. Their wide receivers are banged up. Offensive line is breaking in new starters again. The only thing the Ravens have going for them in this game, which is a lot, is Greg Roman calling a scheme for Lamar Jackson, the most unique talent in football. If some of that cracks a little bit, the Raiders could have a really easy week 1 performance, right? Mm-hmm. Relative, and then they go to Pittsburgh in week 2, and Pittsburgh's offense is nothing to be all that. Like they scored 13 points, and one of them touchdowns was a block punt. So they scored 1 touchdown against the Buffalo defense isn't very good. Like the Raiders come out of the gate and actually look decent defensively for 2 weeks. And if Derek Carr does his end of the bargain, pretty a good opportunity for this team.
I tend to think
give me 7. If you gave me 7, I'll take it.
Okay, go hunt. The Cincinnati Bengals, who won this week, are playing the Chicago Bears, who did not win in Chicago.
Chance for the Bengals to go 2-0.
What did you
it's Andy Dalton revenge game. Do you think they would take Andy Dalton out of the lineup for his revenge game?
For Cincinnati? Oh, that's right. He's definitely playing this fucking game. Oh, my God. And he's going to suck. What do you think the spread should be?
It's probably down because of uncertainty at quarterback as well as playing just now. Bengals go to Chicago. I think Chicago will be laying 3 with Dalton.
Okay. I said 3.5. And it is a juiced 3.
The Dalton
-3, -120.
Dalton overshadowed the fact that the Bears defense was a bus fire in coverage last night, whatever night we're.
It is last night.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah. I really wish I could buy it. If Justin Fields were playing in this game, I would take the Bears.
Yeah, of course. But how much more is Fields worth on the point spread than Dalton?
To me,
I mean, just like what do you? Because I think this is where
I'd say 2.5 to 3 points.
Because this is where opportunity strikes, right? Because if you go on kickoff 30, from 30% off, you can go to our power rankings tool, which has a point spread for every quarterback. The difference between Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield is 3 points, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's an astronomical amount. So if you're looking for value in a league where the edges are thin, because the betting market is not going to price that much of a difference. We have Andy Dalton as the worst quarterback in the NFL. He is worth 0.5 points to the point spread above a replacement quarterback. Current rookies, Zach Wilson is 2.5. Trevor Lawrence 2.5. Mac Jones 2. And there's some other guys below him. 2 points doesn't seem like that much. But if we're right about Fields, it won't be enough. And again, so that's where I think the betting markets are going to, if you're bullish on Fields, underreact to his insertion in the lineup. Mm-hmm. And that's where you can buy. I don't think it's going to be this week, but just to sort of let folks know.
And one of the reasons why that's so much is if you look at the distribution of where games end up, you go, 2 points isn't a lot. Look at where the games end up. Okay, yes, but take all the games and put them into a bucket and look at where games end up. Crossing points in the point spread is worth, in some cases, a large percentage of games, right? If you cross 3, that's almost 10% of games, right? That you all of a sudden are getting as a victory for yourself. And so that's a massive amount when you think about betting against a spread. Obviously, if you get 10% more of a chance to win. And that's what we're saying there. Houston, Cleveland. In Cleveland. Obviously, I thought Houston was going to lose.
Yeah.
But that said, I think Cleveland should be favored by a lot. And so I said 14.
13.5.
Is it here? 11.5.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and take Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Cleveland after that. I mean,
look, this is a game that Cleveland totally steps on its own junk and loses in a previous season. I think Stefanski, this is a classic chance to sort of look like Cleveland is smarting. I think what if Cleveland would have started the game today the way they ended it and ended it the way they started? So they start with 3 turnovers. They come back and Baker plays amazingly, but they lose by 4. I think there's a bad taste in our mouth because of because I look at that game and I think, shit, Cleveland did everything well in this game. And then everybody's like, oh, they turned the ball over at the end. I'm like, oh, that stuff happens, right? Like that's a crime of passion, Obviously Houston is not good. So I'll take this. Thank you very much. I'm actually going to bet it right now.
Yep. With you there. New Orleans, Carolina. Jameis Winston. Oh my God. 5 touchdown passes. Again,
Giannis.
I think there's probably the touchdown passes make it look a little better than it might have, but he threw an absolute dime. I'm forgetting the guy that was deep on that throw. Was it Deontay Harris or something? But they absolutely, he was fantastic. Go to Carolina. Carolina actually covered, one of the few favorites that covered against the Jets, at least the closing line. I have the Carolina Panthers getting 4.5 points in this game.
Okay. Panthers are the
what do you
home
think
team. No, Panthers are getting 2.5.
Okay. It is 3. Juiced a little bit.
So if you want to lay Carolina, it's going to be more. Okay.
No, it's New Orleans -3, -113 on Pinnacle.
Yeah. So you want to lay 3 with the Saints, you're going to have to pay a price.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're kind of smack dab in the middle there. This is a classic, I think. If you lay it with the Saints in this game, you're a square.
You're just buying with the top.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, because again, we talked about this on the live show. We talked about it earlier. The Saints had a decided advantage in the trenches yesterday against Packers. They could still with the Panthers. Like the Panthers have the exact same problems that Green Bay has. They're weak on the offensive line. But I think a lot of the secrets are out now. Like don't you think the Saints unloaded the chamber a little bit?
A little bit. I mean, there's a distinct advantage. I'll say this. The Carolina Panthers won a game today against a much, much, much worse team than the New Orleans Saints won a game against today.
Matt Rule punted on 4th and 6 from the opponent's 33-yard line.
It was a bananas play.
I can't bet on the Panthers, but I think if you lay it with the Saints here at anything more than 2.5, I don't know if you can long-term win that way. Road team coming off a big win, divisional opponent, a lot of familiarity. Panthers' second straight home game. All the spot stuff is don't bet the Saints. But the Saints are probably decidedly better here.
And will be, I think, a popular pick by many people. All right, now to the 4 p.m. slate. And there are a lot of fucking games. Minnesota goes to Arizona. Kyler Murray, baby. I have the Cardinals favored by 4 points.
Seems about right.
The Arizona Cardinals are 4.5-point favorites at home against the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. I think you should take the Vikings.
I know.
It sucks.
I hate that, but I think you're right.
So people talk about this, though, interestingly, and I don't want to belabor this too much, but this is an important point when you talk about betting. People always are like, oh, Zimmer's a covering machine, right? He covers all the time. And Zimmer and the Vikings are 0-8 their last 8 games against the spread. They finished last year 0-7. They won 3 of those games. That's a good point. These trend things are not real. Like, Belichick is literally the only one who has an extended cover streak. Even look at Andy Reid, who's been amazing in his career. Last season, what happened? Yep. 0-7, right? Like, the market eventually prices these teams properly. In the Kirk Cousins era, the Vikings are 23, 26-1 against the spread. Like, there's nothing to – so anybody who's like, oh, I'm just going to bet on Zimmer, he's X, Y, and Z. No. If you're going to bet this game, what you believe is Tennessee's terrible, Arizona had a game effort, and the Minnesota Vikings have gotten out of the gate slow. Because I do think 4.5 is too many. The questions that I have are going to be, if Tennessee can't protect against Chandler Jones, then what the fuck do the Vikings have going for them when they're starting Rashad Hill at left tackle as opposed to Christian Darrisaw, their preferred left tackle?
No, it's a tricky spot for Minnesota. I mean, they just played in almost 5 quarters.
Yeah. No, exactly 5 quarters.
Yeah. Or, on the road. They go on the road now in Arizona. But I think it's, Arizona had a big win against a potentially fraudulent team.
Correct.
They played, who ran the second most routes for them today? A.J. Green. That's not a recipe for success, okay? Yeah. A.J. Green did not look good. So I do think at 4.5, I don't know if we could write that one up, but, man, I do think that's the right side.
I do too.
Pains me. It pains every bone in my body.
And here's the problem. Here's the problem with backing Minnesota. I think they might have lost to a truly bad team today. I mean, I can't remember who.
That's a good point.
When Zach Taylor is out coaching you have to.
Yeah.
But look, maybe Zach Taylor's better than we thought because they did. I mean, the Bengals did some woke shit today. Like, they went for that 4th down on their own end. They didn't make it. Right? Like, there's a lot of – they went for 4th down on their own end up 2 touchdowns. And like, good for them. I mean, they didn't make it, but like they did some pretty interesting. They went for that fourth down at midfield when, I mean, think about it, we don't even talk about this when it works, but like, remember when the Colts went for fourth down against Houston instead of punting and playing for a tie, and everybody was like, oh, these idiots, they cost themselves. The Bengals went for 4th and 1 on their side of the 50 with enough time for Minnesota to like take one shot and kick a field goal if they would have missed it. And not only did they not like try to run up the gut with Joe Mixon, they ran a deep shot to the tight end. Like, good for the Bengals. But the Bengals, like, my issue then is if Zach Taylor is running laps around you as a head coach, you might be done.
That's bad. Atlanta goes to Tampa Bay. I have Tampa Bay favored by 13.5.
I actually did see this one, and you're right. The fucking Falcons.
I was sitting here looking at this and going, 14 and a half, 13 and a half. Yeah, okay.
I mean, I will say this, though. The Falcons will probably cover this number. Like, the hard part is this is going to be it's
also juice towards Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, this might close at 14.
Yeah.
And so don't bet it now. We're not writing up the Falcons. I'm just saying the frustrating thing with Atlanta here is they'll probably play the Bucs tough and lose. And they'll be at 0-2 when you should have been at 1-1 because you faced a fairly easy team in your first matchup. Like, that's going to be the frustrating thing with Atlanta is that they'll probably play Tampa tough. But I think 13.5 is fair.
By the way, not a lot of teasable lines here, which kind of stinks. The next one is Tennessee going to Seattle. So I did not see Tennessee getting their asses kicked. So I had Seattle as a 3.5-point favorite at home to Tennessee. And I'm guessing I'm going to be a little short here. What do you think?
So we have here the Titans at Seattle. Geez. Seattle never plays a normal game. Blah, blah, blah. 4.5.
Okay. I think we're going to be on the Titans again. The Titans are 6-point underdogs in Seattle.
Yeah.
I just hate that so much.
Let it get to 7. Because it will. Like, so, no, let's not bet that now. Let it get to 7. Because that's probably right. It's probably right to back Tennessee here. But let that number grow a little bit before you back it. Because
you think they'll run some play action this week?
I mean, I actually don't. I actually think that this.
Oh, you don't? Well, maybe I wouldn't.
Quick question. What's the record that wins the AFC South? 7, 8, and 1.
Yeah, it might be the NFC East.
8, 8, and 1.
8 and 1.
Yeah.
It might not be above 500. That would not surprise me at all. Dallas Cowboys played the Los Angeles Chargers in a sneaky, exciting, interesting, fun game. I feel like this is just going to be a
first Chargers game with fans ever at their new stadium. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, so I said Chargers by 2.5.
Yes, I agree with that.
It is Chargers by 3.
I think you have to take Dallas.
I agree.
The Chargers will find a way.
So no Lyle Collins.
Yeah.
I think Zach Martin will be back.
Yeah.
But had COVID symptoms, so
yeah, it sucks.
Take that for
he might not be as good.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Joey Bosa was the highest graded pass rusher this week against the Washington football team. So.
Yeah, but the Cowboys can absolutely throw the ball, and they will. Like, it looks like they're kind of like not woke, but like they were really like we're going to try to win this football game in a few ways, but in some ways they didn't do it.
Here's the thing, though,
pisses me off.
They're going to revert and try and run the ball because they think you need to run the ball to win.
I can't touch a Charger. Like, Chargers games ATS are really tough, right? Because there's just the weird stuff happens. There was some Chargerian stuff that happened today, and Washington just wasn't good enough to take advantage of it. So let's enjoy this game
And not
bet it. Because
Okay.
Cowboys +3 seems like the right side, but you're right. Like
Okay.
the Cowboys just have a ton of things that are, not going for it.
It's okay because I have a game that I know I'm going to want to bet.
Okay.
All right. The Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football go to Baltimore. I guarantee you that the line I think this should be, and I'm not being hyperbolic, is going to be higher than what it actually is. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs should be 5-point favorites in Baltimore.
I think they'll be 3.5-point favorites in Baltimore.
They are basically 3. It's -2.5.
Yeah.
-115.
That was a pick'em. So evolution of this line last year in week 3 of the 2020 season, they closed as 3.5-point underdogs in that game. Off season was a pick. Now the biggest loss here is a former Chief, Marcus Peters, but like the running back stuff is actually playing. Like the accumulation of shit is playing.
Orlando
into this.
Brown revenge game. By the way, Orlando Brown got his ass worked.
Miles
Garrett worked him over.
Patrick Mahomes was pressured on 22 of 45 dropbacks. All of the Chiefs' offensive linemen graded in the 60s or worse. I think weirdly they did a good enough job, but not a good job.
No, it was. It was weird. We didn't talk about the Chiefs Cleveland game a ton. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was very good. There was too much watching that game that reminded me of the Super Bowl. Now, I know that sounds weird. Ultimately, the Bucs are a better team than the Browns were. But there was still a not quite, he had, I think, one, really awesome throw, the Tyreek Hill throw.
Yeah.
He had a really nice throw to Travis Kelce. But the offensive line, I didn't get the sense that he felt super comfortable with them. And there was still also a clear lack of a third option.
The 17 of the 27 Mahomes completions went to 2 guys.
Yeah.
So you're 100% right there. I saw a little bit of this in the preseason too, where Pat would drop back and almost immediately scurry forward and try to find that like pseudo running lane. You know how he does that weird thing where he runs up in the pocket and kind of weasels his way past in between the guard and the tackle to throw. It's usually effective. I always thought Tampa did a great job of having their linebacker level was just so fast, and they did such a great job of being able to stop the run with 4 that White and Levante David, one of those guys, could leave their responsibility. And some of this comes down to the Chiefs not having a third option, leaving the responsibility and coming and getting Mahomes. The linebackers for Cleveland, that was the one place where they really have not made any sort of progress in the sort of Andrew Berry era, and it showed today. But it just shows you how like thin the margin is to beat Mahomes by a couple scores, right? Which is you have to play that well, you have to not make mistakes on your own, and you have to prevent Kansas City from taking shots across your face, which is what they did, right? Like the deep ball, to Tyreek Hill and the Kelce touchdowns and so forth. But you're right, it is interesting. Do you think the Ravens have the horses defensively to do anything reasonable? Because the Ravens approach defense fundamentally different than all these teams that have given the Chiefs fits.
No.
Like
I just don't. So this is one for me that
you lay it with Kansas City.
I'm laying it with Kansas City.
Do we know that what the number is right now? 3?
2. I see 2 and a juice 2.5.
All right, well that's a bet. The Ravens are marginally worse defensively than they were when they met last year. And I still think unless they make adjustments, they just will always have a difficult time matching up against Kansas City because they try to beat you with man coverage on the back end and scheming pressure through playing good man coverage. Chiefs are extremely difficult to play man coverage against. And instead of having Judon and instead of having Ngakoue, well, they didn't have an Ngakoue last year, but instead of having Judon and a couple role players behind him, they're basically treating the edge position this year with role players. Bowser, Justin Houston, Pernell McPhee, and the rookie Adafa Owe of Penn State. So I think this is a game where this is a matchup, and football's a matchup game. This is a matchup that favors Kansas City pretty heavily, I think.
The Monday Night Football game is Detroit at Green Bay. I think that the Green Bay Packers should be 13.5-point favorites.
I mean, they won't be, right, because of the overreaction. Yeah, the markets look at Detroit as a playing hard, and the Packers is looking like shit. Let's go with 11.5.
10.5. Can I interest you?
Yes, of course you can. I will take Green Bay.
Not a Wong teaser.
It's not. No. Just lay it with Green Bay.
Teasing through 10-6 is not
can we,
quite as nice. It's better if you do it from the other side.
It's not even though. Like the thing is, teasers require. So and right now it's hard to buy a teaser for 110. So 120 is widely available usually. To make a 120 teaser work, you need a 74% win chance on both sides. And so the problem is if you're teasing through not 7 and not 3, like most you're getting is about 2% each. So like 12%. If you go down to like from 74 each, and you're only getting like 12% through 1, then like you already need that side to cover 62%. If you have a side that you think is going to cover 62%, just bet the shit out of it. Yeah, like to me, the Wong teaser thing works because 3 is worth like 8 to 9% depending upon the total, and 7 is worth 4 or 5% depending on the total. And
so you get close to 20%.
Exactly.
Yep. Yes, I think I think the Green Bay Packers are the spot. Look, if you believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be shitty this season, then may God bless you.
I'll pay to see it again.
Yes. And Detroit was game against Jimmy Garoppolo in Green Bay.
And they weren't, though. Like, they lost. They
came through the back door.
They lost a home game to Jimmy Garoppolo.
Elijah Mitchell is a workhorse. Yes, give me Green Bay here. I like fading that narrative. Okay, this was a fantastic kickoff to the 2021 NFL football season. Speaking of kickoff 30 is the promo code. You can see all of the PFF projections, our power rankings tool, our player props tool, all of our written content for 30% off, but you can only do it for one more day. So go make it happen. Yawn free. I think we did it.
Yeah, thanks to all that came out to watch with us on Periscope, on YouTube, all that great stuff.
Our article will be out in the morning. So you can go.
What do you do? You are not a eater in the middle of the night. I can't imagine.
No, I force myself not to.
Yeah. See, like for me, I might need like a bowl of soup.
Oh, you're gonna do bowl of soup.
Soup is my favorite. So you don't know this about me.
I do know this about you. I know you love soup.
Soup is my favorite food.
You know how I know this about you? You've told me 15 times.
God damn it.
Don't tell me I don't know this about you.
This is how you know, and I'm wearing it right now. This is how you know I'm becoming an old fuddy, because you're like one of my best friends, and I've told you this 15 times, and I pretend like I've never said it to you. Or
you're the guy in the commercial who's becoming your parents. I wouldn't do that to you. I love you too much. I love you too much for that.
Oh my God.
What kind of soup are you going with tonight?
Chicken noodle.
Chicken noodle. See, here's the thing about soup. Soup is basically drinking water.
Kind of.
As long as it's not like, cream of mushroom or whatever.
Yeah, cream.
In which case you're just drinking cream. But like that's fine. Another thing that I think is a great late night snack is like a little cereal, a little almond milk, something like that. But I force myself not to.
Filler though.
I force myself not to.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm water. That's what I do. Be like water. Love you guys.
Be like me.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll be back on Wednesday night. Love y'all.